How do your customers change, like verbally? Like, how do they talk to others after work, or how do they feel more comfortable with their words?
You mean in regards to like speaking up?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Gracie. um, well, it's interesting. What I've noticed is sometimes people are living the life and they'll express the emotions and talk about things and have willing to have discussions that's within a certain range of emotion because they're accepted, they're loved. Maybe it's their socialized story. In other words, they're of a certain culture where women are allowed to have a certain voice, right? And the man has much more of a voice to the point where maybe they have dogs and camels that have more value in some cultures than the women do, right? That exists. We had someone come in here who's from the Middle East, and they just happen to be Muslim. I'm not saying this is true for all Muslims, but this was the scenario in that case. And when I did the interview, or when I did the initial assessment and evaluation, I would ask the husband and wife were in the room together when I did the eval, and I asked the wife a question because she was the client. She was the one who wanted to come in. She's the one that had the concerns for her health. As I asked her the question, the husband would answer. And then I looked at her and I would ask her another question. She would start to talk, and the husband would answer again. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he had all the answers. He had the voice. She had no voice. You see where this is going. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. When we did the consciousness exercises with her, she had zero connection in position two. Position two has a lot to do with your self-worth, self-esteem, self-entitlement. So I shared with the staff, with the girls, hey, when you do body connection with her, this is how you're going to work with this. And they were all over it. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to light her up. We're going to get her, because they got a little bit of a charge on it, which made it fun. And so we did a reassessment with her, and I think it was 4 or 5, 6 weeks, something like that. And we did the re-exam. And the husband, we're seeing him for the first time, right? We've been seeing her 3 times a week. We see the husband for the first time in the 5 weeks. He's in the room. I ask questions again. What are you noticing different? What about this? What about that? She starts to speak. The husband starts to speak, to talk over her like he normally does. She looks at him and starts talking louder. So you see what's happening. Who she is not willing to suppress because of a socialized or cultural story. Remember, the definition of socialization is the suppression of biology. She's her own person. She has her own voice. She has her own things that are important to her. She wants to speak up. But her culture says, no, you don't do that. Well, if I'm doing my job right, her biology is going to speak louder and louder, and her socialization is going to become less and less important, and she's expressing more of her uniqueness. The gift, the reason why she's on this planet. If it's true, the more connected people get, the more present they are, the more they bring to the table, well, then that would be true. And it was fun to see that, dynamics where she's speaking up again. And after she was speaking, because she did speak up and she was going to say what she needed to say and wanted to say. After she was done, I looked at the husband and with a grin, I said, so what is it that you're noticing different about your wife, having been in our office for 5 weeks? So after I did the re-examination with her and asked the questions, and there was the battle back and forth between her and her husband, but I was surprised. He actually took a step back and let her say what she needed to say, which was huge, because the first visit, when they came in for the initial consultation, no way that would have happened. So after I asked the questions and we went through it and we finished up, I looked to her husband and I said, so what have you noticed different about your wife after she's seen me for 5 weeks? And he said, well, how could I describe this? She seems a little bitchy lately. And it was awesome because basically he's giving his take on her starting to speak up, for her drawing a line in the sand and saying, no, I'm not this worthless piece of garbage. that has kids and makes food, but instead I'm a human being and I have something to bring to the table. And that to me was awesome. And they continued with care, and she stepped up more and more and more. And yeah, it was fun to see that.
Yeah, that's really cool to see.
And to have a role in her waking up to who she is as an individual. I mean, that just gives a reason for everything for us, and that's why we do what we do here.
That was a really good story. I kind of want to meet them. Was the husband like okay with her speaking up, or could you tell he was a little like?
Well, I'll say that people take what they can get away with, and as the person develops more of self-worth and self-esteem, as someone builds more of that rhythm with the consciousness for, which is speaking up, drawing a line in the sand, taking responsibility, having that presence, then those around them accommodate.